Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Trader Merlin Show. No intro music today. No, I was cleaning up the studio over the weekend, and I wanted to reorganize my computer to prevent from a crash happening and some bad stuff that would potentially happen, like it did last time when my servers crashed. So, yeah, no sunflower seeds for me, Margaret. I just wanted to make sure I had everything safe and backed up. And lo and behold, when I did that, I actually ended up moving some of my files. So we will hopefully do okay today. So we're not going to have all the typical graphics I normally do. My microphone's good, but I will roll right into this today. Again, I hope you had a great 4th of July. Hope you came back with all of your digits, some crazy stuff going on. You always hear every year about some people that lose their fingers. It's funny. Not funny. On July 2nd or 3rd, I was going through Twitter, X, whatever, and there was someone, a hand doctor, and he says, hope you guys all have a safe and happy 4th of July, and you don't give me any work to do. And he posted x-rays of hands that have been, let's just say, impacted by fireworks. Just the x-rays, but oh my goodness. Made me very happy that I did not light one firework off, and I kept a good distance. But anyway, hope you all did well. Let's go. Oh, yes, you like my sunflower seeds? So, years ago, we're totally digressing. It's a Monday. I'm allowed to digress. And by the way, a shout out to my friend Jordan, who found this one right here. This is an hourglass, and I love hourglasses. For some reason, I like the idea. This is a 45-minute hourglass, so I'm going to start using this every day we do the show, just to keep myself on track and let Big Eb lose the remainder of the year in his wagers that I'm going to do a 1-hour show. So we'll see if I can. At his 45 minutes, I know I got to start wrapping the show up. So sorry, Big Eb. No 1-hour shows, man. We got to knock it out. Anyway, when I lived in Northern California, I had this house was on a corner, and it was a very busy corner, and I staggered in hundreds of sunflowers. So I had like the 12-inch, the 18-inch, the 3-foot, the 5-foot, the 8-foot, the 12-foot, and they cascaded. And I'd wake up sometimes and people would be out there taking pictures in the flowers, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna put sunflowers all along my back fence because I saw random ones pop up. Thank you for the bird, right? The bird poop that made sunflowers in my backyard. So now I posted some pictures on the Discord channel, which I need to log into. I haven't done it in a couple days, but yeah, I've got probably about 100 sunflowers outside, and some of them are 12, 15 feet tall. I think the picture I posted on X was probably a 12 to, if it was straight up totally, probably about 15 feet. It was a pretty big guy. Anyway, let's dive into today's markets, shall we? I mentioned last week that part of my plan is to lighten the load there and go a little bit lighter this week because of the deadline that's going to be happening on Wednesday, which of course is where the reciprocal tariffs were supposed to go back in place. We got a 90-day pause. Everyone said, okay, we're good. Markets just started to rip. Now, the trade war round 2 is obviously starting to heat up. President Trump today was making some statements about the tariff situation. Let's see, there we go. Our trade war round 2 video should start flowing here. Why doesn't it move? There we go. Give me automatic video. Oh, well, my excitement of my videos apparently was going to pause today. So round 2 is somewhat interesting because President Trump has sent letters out, which of course he posted on Truth Social, which will be his mainstay for disseminating information before anywhere else. Now, for the most part, most of it has been deferred to August 1st. So we were told the deadline was July 9th. He issued letters today to mostly Southeast Asian countries, mostly. You had South Korea, you had Japan were the main 2, but you also had Malaysia and several others. And he posted all the letters, which are, of course, boilerplate, cookie cutter, except change the name here, and explaining the tariff situation. They sounded nice. It was a bit condescending. I read through the one to Japan. I was like, man, a little bit rude, but okay, fine. Bottom line is that uncertainty, which I thought would punch us in the mouth this week, is just going to get deferred another 3 weeks to August 1st. Now, is this a good move or a bad move on part of Trump? Look, I'm no political analyst, but it would seem to me that by doing the actions he did today, it would ignite a fire because as of August 1st, those countries know exactly what's going to hit them. Now, they can either do a deal or not. And if they don't, okay, you know what's going to happen. And also, if you do any reciprocal tariffs or increase your tariffs at all, that will get added to that 25%. So for me, I think it's good to a point that it pushes the issue and hopefully we get some resolution. On the trader side, it's fantastic because it's creating a lot of volatility. And of course, markets did not like those statements today. Last night, we started off with this tiny little harami formation on the S&P 500. And lo and behold, we fell below that one. So let me show you the S&P here, which is down about 1% on the day. I drew this out last night as I did my video for TikTok. Actually, it's not correct. It should be to the tail. There we go. That's the exact framing out the Thursday candle and basically saying if we get below that, there's your shorting opportunity. Now, the question for me in my account is really how low do I expect this to go? I'll be honest, I really don't expect that significant of a sell-off here, which is why I did sell some puts today on a variety of different things. We can talk about that later if you like. But, looking at this from a technical perspective, if you're doing the RBDs, etc., rally-based drops and drop-based rallies and all those types of patterns, there are really only a couple of levels that stand out to me that would be somewhat important. And one of those we fell into today. So I will map this out here. And you can see that yellow box that I have on your screen now on the S&P futures between 6,227 and 6,253. Granted, it's a very tight range, but we came down into that today with that tail and bounced up. Now, are we done? I don't know. If we do break that one, then I think you've got a pretty logical target, which is going to be much lower, and that's right around the 6140 mark. So those are kind of the two levels I'm eyeballing here. But again, I'm a believer that the trend is your friend till the bend at the end. I don't see any real reason, barring any colossally disastrous economic data, that we should see these markets sell off. So to me, I think today's actually a pretty darn good day. Let me see what you guys are saying out here. Let it run some more till the bend at the end. Yeah. I agree with you, Rob. Until we start to break those lows. Now, the upper yellow box that you see here, I don't think that would even be that impactful if we broke below that. It's more important for what we teach at Trading Academy that this 6140 mark stays, right? And that doesn't get broken. If you're talking trend perspective and saying the trend is your friend till the bend at the end, that bend doesn't really happen until we kind of break this low, call it 5,959. Now, if we broke down below that, then okay, then there's a pretty good argument that this trend, which started back in early April, is no longer there, right? Or at least it's been changed and modified. So we've got a lot of different data points here we can look at to establish our trades for the next week, or at least up until we get to this August 1st deadline where we'll start to see some reciprocal tariffs. But I still am in the bullish camp. I'm not changing my tune there. I will continue to have more bullish trades, and again, I'll walk you through some of the trades that were made today. Good news is volume is back up to normal. You guys can see the Wednesday and Thursday session of last week. Obviously, a very predictable decline in volume for the S&P 500 and broad market indexes. Today, we right back up to our normal levels, as you can see kind of historically here. We're looking pretty decent. So good. Glad to see the traders getting back to normal. I actually thought we'd see a higher spike of volume today just because of unfilled orders and things that accumulated over the weekend. But no, we did not. That's all we got. Here is some of the details, and this is from Yahoo Finance. I should credit them so I don't get some cease and desist lawsuit. The reason I brought this one up, I think it's really important when you look at who we're dealing with and what the deals are. So, for example, we know that Vietnam down there at the bottom, we've got a 20% tariff on their goods coming into the United States, and for us sending over there, 10%. That, to me, is a big win for the United States. But that really is one of the few that's actually settled and done. I know, Margaret. I should always name my source. Yahoo Finance. The challenge here, look at the percentage of total U.S. trade column. Vietnam, yeah, they inked their deal and things look great there, but they're only 3.2% of total U.S. trade. The ones that really matter are the ones that are still up in the air, and that is Mexico, 15%, European Union, 18%, Canada, 13%, and of course, China is 8%. Now, you would think that China would be more, but really it's about our exports to them, meaning our trade with them. So until we get some real clarity on what happens with Canada, Mexico, and the European Union, I think that we really have to be careful, going all in on these markets, because if there's bad news with regards to what happens with the EU, you can see here it says in negotiations to avert a possible 50% tariff that Trump is threatened with, and it sounds like he's tightening up that a little bit with the EU. Canada says talks should stretch until July 2026 when the USMCA is up for renewal, and then for Mexico, talk to stretch until July, same thing, that USMCA agreement will be renewed. So that might stretch further. I think Trump will push to have Mexico and Canada done sooner. For me, the real wild card here is going to be the EU. Right? What deal can we work with that EU? If something there does not align or misfires or just creates contention, then markets could see a bit of a dip. But all in all, I think that we'll start to see these lower chips here. South Korea, which of course here's the deal today. This is what was sent out today, and I really like this. Honestly, I got to say I'm happy with this because there is nothing here that's a huge outlier. For example, Japan. On July 7th, the announced rate was 25%, right? So we're going to do 25% tariffs on Japan. Well, on April 2nd, when we first did the Liberation Day, it was 24%. So we've increased 1%. But none of these are out of line or like egregious compared to what we had before. Laos actually saw a decline. Myanmar also saw a decline. Let's see who else we have had a raise. Malaysia had a slight raise. So all in all, things are good here. Kazakhstan, that's the world maker right there, Margaret. If we don't do a deal with Kazakhstan, market's going to 600 on the S&P. I'm just kidding, Kazakhstan. Come on, what do we import from Kazakhstan? What business do we do there with Kazakhstan? Anyway, so this is what was sent out today. As I mentioned before, I'm not a fan of Truth Social, but if you're a trader, you got to have a Truth Social account, and you need to follow one person, and that is Donald Trump. He's releasing news on Truth Social before he releases it anywhere else, which one would argue is that legal to do so because he's got a vested interest in Truth Social. Either way, who cares on the legality of it? I just want to make sure that I have quick access to these things when they come out. So this has the market. I would think the markets are saying, okay, we're good with this. There was nothing here that was really damaging to global tensions, if you will. We import Borat. That's nice. I like. Very nice. Man, that's a painful one to watch, Borat. It's hilarious, but boy, is that tough to watch. Okay, let me go. Where else am I going to go from here? Let's go to other things that disrupted the market today. So as you guys know, I am bullish on Tesla. I have been selling puts weekly on Tesla. I did sell the 280s on Tesla today. The premium was juicy, very juicy, because Elon Musk, as he has been doing so often over the past few months, just created all kinds of panic with his talk about the America Party. Now, this is not a recruitment or opposition for the America Party. As you guys know, my political beliefs are somewhat middle of the road, and I do think that we should have a third party challenge a Republican and Democrat. The two-party system, I think, is not efficient. It just creates more infighting, and not that a third party would help the infighting, but maybe would act as more of a checks and balances here. One thing that's interesting about cryptocurrencies and digital assets, if you have two miners in a cryptocurrency, let's say Bitcoin, if I have two miners, it's easy for one party or one miner to manipulate transactions and therefore destroy the chain. If you have three, now there's only a 33% chance of somebody modifying things and destroying the chain. So the more parties you have, the more participants you have, generally the more efficient and safer and secure a network will be with cryptocurrencies. And I would argue that that is good for the American political system. Some of you will disagree with this, but I think that we have entrenched politicians who know that they've got the gravy train. They can just sit there and not get a lot done. They can just keep spending and spending and spending, get themselves a fat check, get insurance forever, and not have to really be held accountable. I'd like to see accountability. I'd like to see a blockchain where they don't get paid unless certain things get done, right? If you can set up smart contracts on a blockchain that where, let's say a political party says, hey, we need $500 million for aid relief to Kinshasa, Zaire. Okay. Now we can, if it's on a blockchain, you can see where every single penny of that went, who got it, when they received it, where it's at right now. To me, that would set some accountability and also prevent a lot of fraud from going on. So I'm for a third party. I don't know the views behind the America Party, but I certainly will listen to it. I think it's good. I think it's really good to have more opposition. Now, what did this do today? This panicked markets, right? Now people are like, oh, what the hell are you doing now, Elon? Come on, stay in your lane. So what did it do to Tesla? And I'll agree, as someone who is very bullish on Tesla, I don't think that this is a great choice. It really depends on what Elon Musk involvement with this will be, right? If Elon Musk says, I'm going to be the head of the party and I'm going to run, then we got a problem for Tesla, because here's your chief, right? The guy who's leading the show there. And really, from all the things I'm reading in his book, just go. He gets stuff done. What would be great for politics, it would mean negative stuff for the shareholders, I believe. I don't think he wants to run it. I think he's going to organize it and get it going and set a party in place and maybe be a backer financially of it. But hopefully he doesn't want to be the one who runs. Now, I thought that was interesting because today you saw some shock to Tesla. Tesla dropped a pretty good amount. At one point, we were down almost 8%. Here we are down only 6.79% at the end of the day, right around 294 right now in the after-hours session is where we're trading. I did sell several, quite a few actually, of the 280 strikes expiring this Friday. Now, the rate of return was pretty good. Got well over 1% for the week, which would be more than what I wanted in this account, so I'm happy with that. But we shall see. You know, there is the fear factor that you get a revolt against Tesla. Now, if you are a hardcore Republican or you're a hardcore Democrat, right now, you're both thinking, well, I hate Elon Musk. And maybe you go out and sell your Teslas or you have nothing to do with it. And also, the current administration, hardcore Republicans actually, I'll say all Republicans and all Democrats would look at this and say, this is bad for us, guys. I mean, if you're in behind the doors in Capitol Hill right now, it's like, uh-oh, this could be a problem. You know, we could all start losing our positions here because the American people are realizing that on many levels we're incompetent at our jobs. That could cause problems. And you may see some strikes against Tesla or his space exploration bids and contracts being negated, or maybe he doesn't qualify for new ones based off this. This could be damaging for him. And I love the fact that Elon Musk has a DGAF attitude. For those who don't know what that is, look it up. I don't want to say it online. But you will have people who, I guess, backpedal when pressure is in their face. They shuffle in fear when the going gets tough. And I think one thing I respect about Elon Musk is he doesn't care, right? He wants to see change. So hopefully this all works out well for us, the American people. I think it could be some tough sledding here for Tesla in the intermediate term. But for me, I'm still bullish on Tesla, which is why I did sell the 280 strikes today, again, expiring this Friday. What did you see here? Almost changeable system until he quit. You know why I think he quit? He realized that there's no chance of changing the political system in the situation that in what he was doing, right? Again, that third party, I think, would really certainly help. He actually had some good ideas. Quirky dude. Oh, you're talking about Ross Perot. Oh, yeah, Ross. I voted for Ross Perot. I liked Ross Perot. I like somebody who has so much money that they're not swayed by money anymore. They're not swayed by influence or somebody saying, hey, I'll give you money if you do this or this. It's like, it would be so nice to have a president who is altruistic and says, I'm not worried about money at all. I can't take it with me. Let's make this place the best that it can be. And I hope that comes. Government does things that corporates do not. Break it and see who dies is a terrible way of running a government. Yeah, there's a lot of arguments there, Indigo, on why the government is running very, very poorly. Again, this is not a political show. This is just a trading show. But these things will be impacting our markets. And today you had that fear factor with Tesla. There are a lot of people panicking. For the most part, when I was looking, I saw a lot of people saying, I'm buying this dip. I am absolutely buying this dip, and I will. I sold those puts at 280. I'll be honest, I hope I get exercised. I hope I get exercised at 280 because I'll just sell covered calls against it and continue to do fine over the long haul. And, how low does Tesla go? If this really does backfire and explode in Elon Musk's face, do you see it sub 200? I don't know. I don't. I don't see it tanking that much. There's just too much going on with Tesla to cause it to lose that much value, in my opinion. And again, I could be totally wrong. There's always a possibility this thing drops to sub 100, right? But I just think that's a very slim chance. Where's the tariff money going to go? Well, in theory, Chio, the tariff money would go to the government, and that money would go to paying down our debt and put us into a surplus at some point. Well, yes, that in theory is where it should go. But remember, if we tariff Japan at an extra 25%, that will be passed on to you. So when you go buy your new Sony headphones or your new Toyota that's from Japan, you'll be paying more. And that is a form of inflation. Yeah, it's a tax on you. I mean, honestly, these tariffs are taxes on you. And it sounds great, but it will go, as Big Eb says, to the Treasury, and that will go to servicing our debt, most likely. What else? Democrats, Republicans are getting ready for the key. Yeah, they're gonna key each other's. It'd be funny to be in the Senate parking lot because the Republicans key in the Tesla and the Democrat goes over to the Republicans and tease his Tesla. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? They hate each other. All right, what else do I have on here for today? As you guys know, I still have puts on. Or sold puts on USO. So let's go USO. And I have the $71 strikes, which is way down here. I think I'm pretty safe here. They expire this Friday, the 11th. So I'm not so worried about that. What is interesting is what OPEC said about their oil prices. So OPEC Plus today made an announcement that they are going to increase production. And I believe it was something like 548,000 barrels per day they're going to increase their production, which should have a direct push down on price of oil. So right now, a lot of people are speculating that sub $60 oil will be on the table here soon. So if you go here, look at crude oil. Crude oil actually was up 1.39% today, which is kind of funny. But I don't see a reason to think that it would be below. Or sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here today. Being below $60 would not be that far-fetched. I mean, honestly, we were back there just in April and May and in June. So I don't think that that's too far-fetched. If Trump does come online and start issuing more approvals and we start drilling and oil starts to flow here in the U.S. more than it did before, then yeah, that's a further catalyst for downside movement. Right now, I still am holding my belief that 64.60 to 65.46 level on crude oil will hold. Now, did it break down below it? Yeah. I'm using that just as a loose target area where I'm expecting price to kind of bounce off of, and that's why I sold that USO lower than current prices. So I'm based off the chart here, I still am bullish on crude oil, and again, I do not believe that we are done with the situation in the Middle East. I think that could be one simple, rogue participant launching a missile attack or some shoulder launch rocket at somebody, and all of a sudden everything changes. Steve Wolf says, no drilling below 63 that's break even in the U.S. I hear so many different numbers, Steve. And we had John Rowland on the program. John Rowland, one of my experts in commodities, metals, or not metals, oil and natural gas. And he was saying that $60 range is your extraction cost. I've also seen some other analysts, when I was on that space on X last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it was last week. There was a lady on there talking about how she thought it could get between $40 and $50. Well, I would imagine that if we got down to that $40 level, let me pull up a weekly here for crude oil. I would imagine if we got down to that $40 level, that there would be businesses that just said, yeah, we're stopping production right now. So here is your weekly chart, and you can see the last time we were even close to 40. Well, we did get not close to 40, but our low point back here on April 7th of this year was 55.12. The last time we were in 40 was all the way back in 2020, and that's the tail end of COVID there. You can see the big bottom out. This was the miraculous negative $40 per barrel of oil, which is something I will never hope to see again. And I'm right there with you, Steve. If it hits 40, I'm loading the boat. This will be a back the truck up, and it won't be even loading the boat on USO. It'll be UCO, right? So you go UCO. I don't usually like leverage instruments. You guys know that. I'm not a big fan, but this is an ultra crude oil. So this is double long crude oil. So if we were to see crude oil hit 20 or 40 bucks, you'd see me load the boat on UCO. Why not leaps on USO? You could certainly do leaps on USO. The issue there would be, I believe, that the premium on those leaps would be very expensive because you're buying all that uncertainty at that time. If it gets down to 40, I know it's not going to stay there very long. Just can't. I mean, historically, let's go out and look at a chart here. Let's pull up a much bigger time frame. Let's go monthly, right? And I want to put a line at $40. So let's put that there. Oh, let's go to crude oil. That was the leverage ETF. Let me just change this line here, and I'm going to make this 40 bucks. Okay? So there's a red line. I'll make it yellow to make it real easy for us to all see it. So we got a bright yellow line there on your screen. That is $40. And here's a monthly one. Now, how many times have we dipped below it? A few, right? We certainly had it back here in 2020. There was a little bit of a dip below it back here in 2016, a little dip below it back in 2009. But if I look at statistical probability and say what percentage of the time in the last 21 years has price been above 40, I would argue it's going to be in the 95% of the time it's above 40. So if we got to 40, I'm simply going to play the probability game. And doing so, I will go leveraged ETFs. And I know, Margaret, you're like, Merlin, you say you hate holding long-term leveraged ETFs because I'm certain that price will bounce from that level. It's just, how long will I be in that trade? Will it be a week? Will it be a month? Will it be 6 months? Will it be a year? The longer I'm in it in those leverage ETFs, the less profit I will get. But crude oil will rally back. Crude oil will get back up to, its $60, $70, $80 mark. And if I'm in a double long position, I'll feel good about that. Now, that's what I will be doing. For all of you, if we get down to 40, you have to analyze your risk, right? If you are nervous about it, then don't do it. Could it go sub 40? Yes, it can. Now let's look at the lowest price that crude oil has been in the last 20 years outside of that one-off event that we saw because of inventory, right? There was no place for people to park their crude oil, so everyone was selling the futures contracts. That's why we saw it tank like this. That is a one-off event. Now, this other low point we see right here, this is on February 1st of 2016, the month of February 1st. So February. In the month of February 2016, the low price was $26. Now, it certainly could get down there again. It is possible, but I'm just playing statistical probability, right? I'm saying over time, crude oil has certainly been above $40, and there's less and less oil on this planet. Every day we consume it, there's less. Now, I know that there's some oil being created. Margaret says 41 looks great. Okay, Margaret, I'll buy at 41 too. Drew says those levels on CL below $50 are the most beautiful levels you can ask for on the chart. Well, I don't know if I would call them the most beautiful, but certainly that $40 mark is great. I mean, again, probability will tell me that this is going to be above $40. So I'm okay holding that. Even if I have to hold it from 40 to 30, I'll buy more at 30. Just over time, this thing's going to be back up to its historical norm. And let's put a 200 period moving average on here, just for observation. And let's make sure this is 200. Okay, so it's 200 month moving average, right? 200 month moving average right now is, let me get that, should be, not giving me the number over there. Usually it posts, is $71. So the last 200 months, the average price is $71 a barrel. So yeah, you can call me a screaming buyer at $40. Absolutely. Vegas says $40 2025 is a huge difference versus 2016. Yep, absolutely. We've got a lot more demand, right? That is one big factor to it, which is going to drive price up. I would imagine that mathematically there's going to be less supply, but who knows? That's a debatable P. I'm not sure if I believe the whole peak oil theory. I don't know if you guys know what peak oil is. Peak oil theory says that there's only a certain amount and we are going to run out after a certain amount of time. Now, I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime. I just don't see that happening. However, when I was visiting Dubai, I think I told you, I went there in 2005. I taught some classes for Trading Academy. It was awesome. And Dubai is fantastic, but it was one of the few cities in the world that just left me jaw drop when I saw how it was built. It was literally a sand village, just sand. Everywhere you look, sand. And they found oil, and they built businesses around that oil industry. Now, Sheikh Salam bin Al Masum, I forget the name. They have really long names there. But brilliant guy, because he said, look, we know we're going to run out of oil in roughly 50 years. We'll run out of oil in about roughly 50 years is what Dubai, when I went to the museum there, they targeted 50 years they will be out of oil. So what you do is you put every single penny that you're getting from your oil into your city. You build massive infrastructure. So you have a developed country. You have incentivize other countries to come to you. So they have zero taxes there. They gave all kinds of building credits to international money to build skyscrapers. And Dubai is pretty amazing. What's fantastic is when you leave Dubai, you're like on this 8-lane superhighway and there's skyscrapers to the left and the right. And all of a sudden it just stops and it's as far as you can see sand. Just goes off to a 2-lane road into nothing. They just kept building outward and outward. Yeah, similar to Vegas, Pepe. Yep. Good to see you, Pepe. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's very similar to what Vegas is. Vegas, I would argue, is much more of a tourist attraction than Dubai. But if you are a business person, Dubai is not a bad place to go. You got no taxes. That's fantastic. Trust me, the thought had crossed my mind of like, would I want to go to Dubai and live in Dubai one day? When I was teaching there, I met a guy and he took me to the apartment and showed me all the amenities, what they had. And it was pretty amazing. It's not for me. That's not for me. I would like to go to Abu Dhabi as well. Yeah, Oliver. The Middle East, there's some, for the most part, great people. One of the bucket list items I had was to go snowboarding on snow in Dubai. So I went to the mall, and I was a pretty decent snowboarder, and I went there. They have an indoor mall with an indoor ski resort, and you can go snowboarding in there. And so I went snowboarding in Dubai. I'll tell you what, typically when you see this type of attire on someone, they don't know what snow is. So it was really kind of funny watching them try to snowboard or ski. Oh, it was embarrassing. Yep, I went to the Palm Islands, the Palm Jumeirah. Yep, absolutely. They had, I forgot what the name of it was. It might have been the Palm Jumeirah. They have a massive aquarium there, which is absolutely incredible. They have hotels that are underwater, guys, so you can see tropical fish swimming by your room. Really, really cool. Unless you're claustrophobic, I wouldn't recommend it. But they had a whale shark in their fish tank. It was a baby one, but yeah, it was really cool. One thing that you got to be ready for, just as if you were to travel to India or other countries, is there is a very big separation between the rich and the poor. In Dubai, you have a lot. It almost feels like slavery or indentured servitude, where they bring in, people from India or other African countries, and they put them to work, and they're working really hard. So unfortunately, that's everywhere you go in the world, I guess. All right, what else I have? I saw Chio ask me about Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin real quick, and then I'll talk about some of the other trades. I took some pretty big chances today, I think, and I'll explain why in just a sec. But if you go to Bitcoin, I'm still bullish on Bitcoin, and you look at the monthly chart here, that explains why. We'll go to the daily time frame, which is my favorite to look at. I was rather optimistic that we were going to have a really good breakthrough this weekend and push through and hit all-time highs by the end of this week. It didn't. Obviously, today we had a little bit of a sell-off, down 1.78% over the weekend for Bitcoin futures. Still holding that trend line, but not a good thing. I was really expecting there to be more follow-through, and we didn't get it. All weekend, I just kind of watched it teeter between 107 and 109, but just couldn't get our legs underneath us. At this point, though, Chio, I'm still bullish. Do I think we'll get to the 250 target? Every day that we flounder around here without a big move makes me believe that we're not going to get to 250, but I still think we're poised for a big run here at some point in the near future. So I like that. Now, my presentation in Las Vegas, which I know some of you might be going to Las Vegas, I will be giving a presentation on digital assets and cryptocurrency. I also have like 5 other things going on, so if you guys happen to be in Vegas, let me know. I'll update this to the full session of presentations I will be giving. So for those of you that are headed there, Monday the 14th from 4 to 4:30, I will be on a panel talking about understanding blockchain technology and ways to profit from digital assets. Right after that, I will be on another panel, which is the key drivers and top profit strategies for the next wave of AI revolution. This class you see here will be on Tuesday at 10:30. That's a paid class, I believe, for 2 hours where we talk about filtering chaos, how to choose the right cryptocurrency and digital asset investments. And then on Wednesday, I will be doing another panel, which is crypto coins and currencies, how to profit and hedge in 2025, 2026. So that is going to be in Vegas coming up. Is it next week? What day is today? It's next week. Man, next week I'll be in Vegas. This time, same channel. So what that means for everyone here is no show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's all we. Prize giveaways, that's pretty good. Is there prize giveaways there? I don't know. Pepe, you can drop the O from Online Trading Academy. It's Trading Academy now. We did away with the online because really our big area that differentiates us from an education perspective is obviously the content, but also we do physical classes. So Trading Academy's we're doing good. It's been slow to kind of get the wheels spinning again after all that happened, but now it feels really good. I would argue we've got the best team possible. It's funny when you have almost like Doge, right? You had Elon Musk come in and we just go to different departments and just gut what's not needed. And of course, that was met with a lot of backlash. But when something is already on its knees and crippled and not moving, and you can just go in and just get rid of all the pieces that aren't necessary, it's much easier to build a better program. Because just like when Elon Musk took over Twitter, he basically told his Tesla engineers, come in here and I want you to analyze code. Who's doing work? Who's the best performers here, right? Because most people at Twitter were just slacking off, not even showing up for work. So we got rid of all that. So now we have a very productive team, a very creative team as well. So there's a bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline from social media perspectives, as well as course content, as well as benefits to the students. So I couldn't be happier, Pepe. I got to say that. I couldn't be happier. Exactly, Rob. Competition, I think, makes everybody better. And it's also, when you get rid of an individual, there's also a consideration of how did that individual operate with their team? Because sometimes you might have an individual who's not performing the best, but as a team, they perform fantastic. So that's another really important thing for us, was really analyzing, which team's working well together and maybe keep that entire team. But got rid of a lot of the stuff that slows us down and bureaucracy and bad stuff. So it's been very good. I'm very, very happy the way it is. Yep. Thank you very much. For the two Merlin shot glasses for the grand prize, I have 4 shot glasses left, and I use those regularly at my house. So those are going to get raffled away. Maybe we'll get more. I have some pens. I got a lot of Trader Merlin pens, but maybe I'll give those out at the expo. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the trades that I'm in. I can see the hourglasses. Still got some time left. We still got a few minutes left here on the hourglass here. Should be about 8 minutes on that, based on what that is. So Tesla was the first one that I traded today, so I mentioned that. We have the 380 puts on Tesla. I'm a big fan of digital assets, real-world assets, and tokenization. I think that that's the next big thing to change our financial institutions, will be tokenization. So Margaret, one of our loyal fans here, or I don't know if I call you a fan, but one of loyal attendees. You might just hate me, Margaret, and you just still show up every day. But Margaret has been very bullish on Robinhood, and Robinhood has subsequently changed their business model, much to the benefit of those who are along Robinhood. And the main thing that they've done, at least from what I've gleaned over the past couple months here with regards to their trajectory, is a bigger push for crypto, a bigger push towards digital assets. So we talked about this last week, where Robinhood was doing some tokenization, and they were going to start to sell U.S. securities like stocks on any market in the world, really, but they were talking about U.S. markets. So in Europe, you can buy a token for Apple or Meta, Goldman Sachs, whatever, and do that through Robinhood 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is fantastic. Now, there's people who've asked me, well, what about Webull? Do you think that Webull will be the same? Look, I don't think Webull is anywhere near as big as Robinhood is, but they're in that same competitive vein. So let's put Bull on top here. So here's Webull. So Webull doesn't look anything like Robinhood. Of course, Webull had their huge IPO here back in April of this year, so they're still struggling to get going, okay? So, Mike, I fell for it again. What'd you fall for? Yeah, I had Robinhood as a buyout candidate. I did. I thought Robinhood was a buyout candidate. Now, maybe it's going to be Webull. So what Webull is doing, and let's just go back to the beginning of the year. It's okay. Webull is going down the same path. They're really doubling and tripling down on real-world assets, RWA, and tokenization. So I think they're keeping an eye on what Robinhood is doing, and as soon as Robinhood implements this and gets past any regulatory obstacles that may pop up, I think Webull's going to jump right into that and really focus more on real-world asset tokenization as opposed to just equity tokenization. So Webull had a pretty significant decline today. Webull was down a big time. They were up down over 10%. Let's go to Bull. So you had an 11% slide today. I sold the $12 strikes today. Let me just check my account and make sure. I'll go to my phone here real quick. I sold the 12s, just because panic selling to me usually invites a big bounce to the upside. So let me just verify that I'm in the 12s. Yes, and that I'm not a fan of, Oliver. I'm definitely not a fan of a Chinese-based company. So Webull today, let's see, my strikes. Yeah, I got the $12 strikes expiring Friday, but the premium was absolutely fantastic as well. So I put not a large position, but I put a position on, sold some puts at the $12 strike expiring this Friday. And again, I'm just saying this so you guys can see what we got. Oh yeah. The chart looks absolutely, it actually looks okay from this perspective right here. So you guys might know, we've got a guy named Michael Anthony who I don't think is here today, but Michael loves charts that just look like he is the alert for the worst looking charts in the market. He is like my filter. Michael, where are you? And he always likes these charts that are just like a 45-degree downslope. Now with Webull, you could argue there wasn't that 45-degree downslope. I mean, this is absolutely atrocious. But this is the similar thing I mentioned with Robinhood back in the day, right? Robinhood back in the day, it was going sideways, not doing anything. And I said, I wouldn't touch it because it looks like it's going to go to zero or get bought out. But I would also put a box around its range-bound activity. And here you can see on Webull, it was range-bound from late May up until early July. And now you've finally broken out of it. So that would change my perspective. No, not 50 contracts, Pepe. I think I did 30, but not 50. And mind you, it's a $12 security, so not that big of a deal. Even with 30 contracts, it's only $36,000 on the line, so that's okay. Chump change, small stuff. Yeah, so Rob, in that, it already broke above. It had bad news today, and the bad news that showed up, in my mind, is actually good news. So the bad news was that they're getting $1 billion lifeline from this company, and in that, they're going to be issuing some more shares, which should dilute ownership. However, that $1 billion, if you read the press release, is kind of interesting because that $1 billion is basically saying, look, we want lines of capital when we go full bore on this, and we don't have that capital right now, so we're basically lining up the capital for the future. So it'd be interesting to see what Webull does over the next 6 months or so. Granted, the way that new markets work, the way that digital assets work, it's going to be tough to get what they want to implemented right away. And I think it's going to take years for real-world assets and tokenization to take over mainstream, okay? Maybe Ford and Nike be the next Robinhood. I'll go look at Ford and Nike. I think Nike you're probably going to do well with because of what happened with Vietnam and the shoe deal. But so that was one of the trades that I pulled off today. What else did I do? Obviously, I got the Tesla puts, which that was a pretty big position. And I did SMCI again. For SMCI, I went 45 today, which is a little bit higher than I wanted to go. But I just like the way it's kind of been sideways here for the past week. So I figured out I'll go for it at $45. I did SMCI $45 and collected a pretty good amount of premium there. So all of these are well over 1% for the week. That's the goal. What brand of shoes do I wear? Wow. Let me go back to the Nike chart here since we're talking about that. Anyway, so those are the three that I had on. I did open some UNG as well. Let me knock this out here just so you guys have the trades. I'll update my sheet later on. I did the 15 strikes again. So I did the 15s last week. I did the 15 the week before. And here I did the 15 strikes again, mainly because that 15 level has been just kind of this bounce point for quite some time. So I'm okay with the 15 on UNG. We'll see how that one works out, but there we go. So those are the positions today. What brand of shoes do I wear? Well, I don't have brand loyalty. So this is to give you guys an idea of what a dork I am. There was a day here, which doesn't happen too often, where it was just torrential downpour in Southern California. This is a few years back. And I was kind of like, what am I going to do today? You can't go out to the beach. It's kind of just crappy weather. So I decided to go to a shoe store. And I pulled out my phone, and I made a list of all the different brands of shoes they had. Skechers and Nike and Adidas, you name it. And not only just tennis shoes, but like dress shoes as well. And I wrote down, I tried on every shoe. I spent a couple hours in that store. I'm sure the guy there was like, dude, you got to go. You can't stay here anymore. And I tried on every shoe, and it's really surprising. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but in Prada, I wear a 6, which is like, I feel like a dwarf foot, like a tiny little foot. In Nike, I'm a 9. So I like to be able to buy a shoe that I like and is also a phenomenal deal. So what I wrote down all the shoe sizes for different brands, and I'll just kind of go through and I go, you know what, I need a nice new set of dress boots. Typically, I do like Kenneth Cole dress boots, but I have no brand loyalty. I have zero brand loyalty whatsoever. I will tell you that Costco had some very nice Skechers step-ins. And until you get old enough, step-ins sound like a joke. Oh, man. I'm a big fan of the step-ins. Everyone gives me a hard time about them. I'm like, come on, you're not that old. I'm like, they're so comfortable. Kenneth Cole, I do like Kenneth Cole. Yep. Let's see. Let me go back here a little bit because I've been just going off on random topics. Indigo says, all these decentralized tokenized still have no value unless backed by fiat currency that does have value. But of course, they want to charge you a transaction fee all day long. I wouldn't say that tokenization has no value. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I could take my car and issue it as a token. Then the value of that token is the car itself. That's where real world assets really excel. Is it's something that actually has value. Now, is that car priced in dollars or euros? Doesn't matter. The assets, like you're going to see houses tokenized. Has nothing to do with the dollar system. It just has to do with that asset is now a token that can be quickly changed, just like the house could be swapped or sold, but it'll be tokenized, thus speeding up the process. So we're not talking like an ERC20 token of some, Floki or Shiba Inu garbage that has no value. You'd be correct there, Indigo. However, I think that the future of real estate investment and real estate investment trusts, REITs, will be tokenized. So instead of me going to buy a $100 million apartment complex, which I can't afford, I would actually go out and buy tokens in a $100 million apartment complex and have fractional ownership. That's where it's going to start to go. And it's also going to move into stocks and futures, forex, you name it, tokenization. Anything of value, an asset that can be bought and sold, will most likely be tokenized in the future. And remember, you heard a year and a half ago, Larry Fink of BlackRock say they're all in on tokenization. So I think that while it's slow in starting and developing the infrastructure, I think that in the next couple of years, it'll be so commonplace. A lot of your friends are going to go, what is this tokenization? You'll be like, oh, I know exactly what it is. I know exactly what it is. Oh, man, we got stuck on a shoe conversation. Let's see. Indigo. Let me go back a little bit further here. Let's see. Banksy, how do we know if a particular trend is exhausted? You never know 100%. But the mantra that I use all the time is the trend is your friend until the bend at the end. So until it starts to make either a new low or a new high, let's say it's in an uptrend, right? If it doesn't make a new low, then it's an uptrend. And as soon as that new low is made and breaks a low in that uptrend, then it's not necessarily done, but certainly the power of that trend is no longer as strong as it used to be, right? All right, my hourglass is up, which means it's 45 minutes. We're at 48. Perfect. What was the question I saw? Jitty had a good question there. I think I got it. I think I answered that question, Jitty. Let's see. Indigo goes, what tools do you use to find good options premium? Seems like the premium is dropping on many stocks. I don't run a scan for premium. I like volatility. So I'm typically, with this account I'm trading here for this show, volatility is my friend. So I'm looking for things that have volatility. Also, things that I would like to own for the most part, right? Webull, I'd have to have a really long-term outlook on that. But Tesla, I'd like to own Tesla. SMCI, I'm okay with that because they're kind of in bed with NVIDIA products and the growth of AI and implementation of systems. So I'm okay with that, even though they had some accounting scares a while back. Generally, I'm just scrolling through, and Indigo, I'll look at a setup and say, I'd like to buy it at this price. What premium am I going to get? And if it meets my premium threshold, I'll make the trade. All right. We got Brooks are the best. See, Brooks are like sorry, Big Ed, but they kind of look like old man shoes. Like an old man shoe. You wear Brooks, it's like, I feel like it's a 1970s shoe. They're probably pretty comfortable. New Balance, okay. What else? Prada. So, Steve, when I lived in Italy, the Prada outlet was right down the street, literally like a mile away from the school that I went to. So the assistants, they drove me there. And this is when the dollar was really strong, so I bought a whole bunch of Prada. Yeah, that's probably the only time I'd ever buy them. I mean, the shoes I was buying were like $600. I was getting them at the outlet store for $150 a pair. I still have them to this day. They're great shoes. Let's see. Big Eb said, I don't know. You should wear shoes that have good support and are comfortable. I think it all depends on what you want to do, right? If you're wearing them for an hour or so and you want to, make a statement, whatever, who cares? If you're wearing them for the long haul, you're going to go golf for 8 hours, yeah, you need comfortable shoes. If you're in the service industry on your feet, man, shoes are so important. Shoes and a bed, very, very important. Let's see. Steve says, I don't sell puts on anything I don't want to own. I'd agree. Do I really... I don't know if I'm necessarily that bullish on Webull. But I don't think it's going to disappear. I think that if anything, they're going to get bigger because of the digital assets and crypto pieces. I do think that they are going to move more aggressively to become a stablecoin issuer in the United States, just like Ripple is, right? Ripple applied for a master banking license. I don't know if you guys saw that. There's multiple levels of banking licenses in the U.S. Well, Ripple is asked for the biggest of the biggest, which is a master license. And what that means is they can deal directly with the Fed. All the assets that they hold will be kept at the Fed, and that's going to make the Fed very, very, very happy. We'll see if they get it. I hope that they don't. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Ripple. Ripple is a political machine that's run by a small group of people. To me, it's not crypto. It is just a business that issues a digital token. Crypto would be something decentralized where you don't have central control. The digital assets is on a different app within Webull. Don't have the app. I don't have a Webull account. The good news, Rob, is I don't wear high heels. I don't wear high heels. All right, let me go to your economic calendar for tomorrow because there's really nothing on the earnings front. Earnings don't really do anything until Wednesday. It's kind of a quiet week for earnings. I think there's only like 43 or 48 companies reporting earnings. For tomorrow, your economic calendar looks like this. There are rate statements. That's going to happen right after midnight. So you can see here, right after the stroke of midnight Eastern time, you're going to see the Australian Bank, or the Reserve Bank of Australia, come out with a rate announcement. They are expected to drop 25 basis points from 3.85 down to 3.6%. Now, if we go look at what's been going on with the Australian dollar, let me bring up my forex panel here. Let's go to AUD USD. Where is my AUD? That's the AUD cat. There it is. The last few days have been pretty weak, but overall, that Australian dollar looks just like the U.S. equity markets. Bottomed out in April and been getting stronger and stronger and stronger, while the dollars were getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So I would be inclined to think that this trend is going to continue, but remember, if they cut rates, that makes them less desirable. A lot of people use the rates for carry trades. If you know what a carry trade is, let's go here to Forex Factory. You go to, oh man, where is it? I think it's market. On the right-hand side, there's like a page where you can see all the different rates. There you go. So here you can see the current central bank rates around the world. U.S. right now leading the charge at 4.5%, which should be giving the dollar strength, but it's not. People would be buying the U.S. dollar because they earn more money and then selling something like the Japanese yen or the Swiss franc, and therefore collecting that carry trade of 4.5%. But right now, we are way up there near the top. Australia is as well, so they'll be cutting their rates, expected to happen tomorrow. Now, if we go to the other news for that day, let's go back down to Tuesday afternoon. You can see you also have one tomorrow night at 10 p.m. tomorrow. New Zealand also has a rate announcement. They're expected to stay the same at 3.25%. No change expected there, so they're going neener. Our economy's okay, Australia. Why are you cutting? Big problems over there. Anyway, there you go. So that's it. Other than that, not a lot to speak about. I'm still curious to see what happens on Wednesday. I think Trump has done a decent job of alerting the public to, okay, we're going to push this to August, but here's what happens. August 1st is going to get implemented. So hopefully that doesn't create too much of a shock. But we're not out of the woods yet. These are the smaller partners we're dealing with. Japan, not the smallest, but not the biggest. Again, Mexico, Canada, EU, China. Those are the ones we really, really, really have to focus on. And again, those announcements could happen anytime now. Maybe we get a shock event on Wednesday. I don't think we will, but you never know. President Trump loves to keep us on our toes, which I think creates opportunity. So that will do it. Is good and all right? Janet, I'm great. Well, why'd you think I was bad? I'm real good. I'm happy. I had a great week. I had a great. Last week was a phenomenal week. This week I'm off to a negative start. So obviously my MicroStrategy, from a trade perspective, sold off a little bit. I did sell calls against my position, so I sold the 412s and a half, the 412.50s. So let me update this here. So I'll put it. The blue line is going to be what my calls are. So that's 412.50. So I have the 412.50s. I wanted to sell the 420s just because it's 420, but I didn't get a chance to get there today. So unfortunately, I didn't get that. But if I get out the 412.50s, I'm happy with that as well. If it's putters around here, I'm fine. I'm good with it. So there we go. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. The hourglass is spoken. The hourglass is empty. And I will dive into whatever listener comments, questions you have. If for those of you that have been trying to get into Discord, apologize. I will click on that right after the show and let the new members in. I'm the gatekeeper for all that, so I apologize if you've been waiting for approval from me. I will get to that right after the show and after I upload it. So thank you guys so much. Hope you have a fantastic remainder of your day tomorrow. Just about rates. So really Australia, New Zealand. Other than that, I don't see anything that crazy on the board or technical from our markets. So we will see what happens tomorrow. If you have something you want me to cover on tomorrow's show, email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com. Take care, everybody. I will see you mañana.